The chamber was enormous, carved from a single piece of crystal that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the circular floor, feeling very small. Above her, arranged in floating platforms that defied gravity, sat the representatives of the Galactic Council. There were dozens of them, each one representing a species that had traveled between stars for thousands of years. Elena kept her back straight and her hands clasped behind her. Next to her stood Commander James Chen and Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, the other members of Earth's first diplomatic mission. Behind them, visible through the transparent walls of the chamber, floated their ship. The USS Indomitable looked exactly like what it was, a massive, bulky vessel covered in scars from its 10-year journey through space. "So this is humanity," a voice echoed through the chamber. It came from one of the Vexenari, a being that looked like living crystal, shaped vaguely like a praying mantis. "We have reviewed your petition for recognition." Elena felt hope rise in her chest. Earth had worked for decades to build the Indomitable. They had pooled resources from every nation. The journey to reach this place had taken 10 years, even at their fastest speed. 10 years in cold sleep, dreaming of this moment. "Your technology is primitive," another voice said. This one belonged to a Quileron, a species that communicated through telepathy, but used a translator for species like humans. The Quileron looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. "Your fusion drives are outdated by at least 3,000 years. Your ship barely reaches 12% of light speed." Elena swallowed her pride. "We are young, yes, but we are eager to learn. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Elena a moment to realize what it was. Laughter. They were laughing at her. Friendship. The voice was loud and harsh, coming from the Carthan section of the council. The Carthan looked like bipedal reptiles, covered in dark red scales that seemed to shimmer. This one wore armor that probably cost more than Earth's entire military budget. What could humanity possibly offer us? Ambassador Kethron stood up from his platform. He was tall, at least 8 feet, with eyes that burned like hot coals. "Look at your ship, human. It is a relic. My personal yacht moves faster than that thing. You have no gravitic manipulation, no quantum communications, no dimensional shielding. You came here in a tin can, powered by the same reaction that lights your stars, and you want to sit among us?" Elena felt anger burn in her stomach, but she kept her voice level. "We may be young, but we are not foolish. We built what we could with what we had. We crossed 20 light years to reach you. That should count for something." "It counts for nothing," Kethron said. He gestured at the Indomitable with one clawed hand. "That vessel is a stone axe at a plasma rifle convention. You are children playing with toys." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Not all the council members joined in, Elena noticed. Some watched silently, their expressions unreadable. But enough laughed to make her face burn with shame. The lead Vexnari raised a crystalline appendage, and the laughter stopped. "We have deliberated on your petition, Captain Vasquez. The Galactic Council recognizes that humanity has achieved basic interstellar capability. This is no small feat for such a young species." Elena felt hope again. Maybe this would not be a complete disaster. "However," the Vexnari continued, "we cannot grant you full membership at this time. Your technology is too far behind galactic standards. Your understanding of interstellar law is minimal. Your species has no proven record of peaceful coexistence, even among yourselves." "What are you saying?" Elena asked, though she already knew. "We grant humanity observation status. You may maintain an embassy here. You may observe council proceedings. You may trade on a limited basis with willing partners. But you have no vote, no voice in galactic affairs, No protection under collective defense treaties. How long? Commander Chen spoke for the first time. How long until we can apply for full membership? The Vexnari tilted its head, crystalline facets catching the light. When you have proven yourselves worthy, when your technology meets minimum standards, when you have demonstrated peaceful intent and capability, perhaps in a few centuries, your descendants may qualify. Centuries, Dr. Okonkwo's voice was sharp. You are barely out of your cradle, a new voice said. It belonged to one of the Quiloran representatives. Most species spend 1,000 years at observation status. Some never advance beyond it. Be grateful we acknowledge you at all. Kethron stood again, his armor clinking. I would offer one additional piece of advice, Captain Vasquez. Stay in your corner of the galaxy. Do not embarrass yourselves by trying to expand too quickly. There are dangerous species out here, and your little ship would not last 5 minutes against real military power. Consider this a kindness. We are warning you to know your place. Elena met his burning eyes. For a moment, she considered responding, defending humanity's honor. But she was a military officer. She knew when to fight and when to retreat. This was not a battle she could win with words. We understand, she said quietly. Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for their consideration. The Vexnari made a gesture, and the platforms began to rise. The council members were leaving, already forgetting about the primitive humans below. The meeting was over. As Elena and her team walked back through the crystal corridors toward the docking port, none of them spoke. The silence was heavy, filled with shame and anger and disappointment. 10 years of travel, decades of preparation, all for this. When they reached the Indomitable, Elena paused at the airlock. She turned to look back at the council station, a massive structure that seemed to be built from impossible angles and materials that should not exist. Commander Chen stood beside her. They made us look like fools. Yes, Elena agreed. What do we tell Earth? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Through the airlock window, she could see her crew moving about the ship. Good people, smart people, people who had given 10 years of their lives for this mission. Behind them, back on Earth, billions waited to hear that humanity had finally joined the galactic community. We tell them the truth, Elena said finally. We tell them we were granted observation status. We tell them we have our foot in the door. And Kethron's threats? Dr. Okonkwo asked. His mockery? Elena smiled, and there was something cold in that smile. We remember them. Every word, every laugh. We smile. We learn. We watch. And we prepare. She looked at the Indomitable again, at its scarred hull and primitive engines. To the Galactic Council, it was a joke, a relic, proof of human inferiority. But Elena saw something else. She saw what humanity could accomplish when they set their minds to a goal. She saw 10 years of determination. She saw a species that had climbed from caves to stars in a cosmic eye blink. They think we are weak, she said softly. Let them think that. Let them laugh while we learn everything they can teach us. Let them forget about us while we work. Work on what? Chen asked. Elena turned to enter the ship, her eyes hard. On making sure they never laugh at us again. The airlock closed behind them. The Indomitable began its long journey back to Earth, carrying news of humanity's humiliation. But it also carried something else. Detailed scans of every technology they had seen, recordings of every word spoken, and a burning determination that would change the galaxy forever. In the council chamber, Kethron watched the primitive human ship begin its slow departure. He smiled, already forgetting about the insignificant species. He had more important matters to attend to. The Carthan Empire was expanding, and there were other worlds to conquer. He did not know that he had just made the greatest mistake of his long life. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. It would not be a mistake they would have the chance to make twice. 3 years had passed since the humiliation at the Galactic Council. In that time, humanity had been busy. Very busy. The colony ship Mayflower 2 drifted in orbit around New Havana, a planet humans had named after the ancient Cuban city. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents visible from space. It was the 5th human colony established in the 3 years since their return from the Council Station. Governor Marcus Webb stood in the observation deck of the orbital station, watching supply shuttles move between the surface and the waiting ships. New Havana had a population of 50,000 now, growing every month. Farms were producing food, factories were being built, children were being born under an alien sun. Governor Webb, incoming transmission from Earth. The voice of his communications officer interrupted his thoughts. Put it through. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral Elena Vasquez. She was in uniform now, her captain's insignia replaced with the stars of an admiral. She looked older, Marcus thought. 3 years of hard work showed on her face. Marcus, she said, her voice tight, we have a situation. What kind of situation? The Carthan kind. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Everyone knew about the Carthan Empire. They were the Galactic Council's unofficial enforcers, the species that did the dirty work when someone needed to be reminded of their place. They had crushed dozens of younger species over the centuries, and the Council always looked the other way. Show me, Marcus said. The hologram changed, showing a different figure. This was Kethron, the same Carthan who had mocked them 3 years ago. He looked even more arrogant now, if that was possible. Attention, human colonies. Kethron's recorded message began. The Carthan Empire has claimed the Proxima sector for expansion. Your colonies of New Havana, Port Darwin, and New Seoul fall within this sector. You have 1 standard galactic week to evacuate these worlds. Any humans remaining after that time will be considered hostile occupiers and dealt with accordingly. The message ended. Marcus stared at the blank hologram for a long moment. That's it? He finally said. No negotiation, no discussion, just leave? That's it, Elena confirmed. We've sent protests to the Galactic Council. They're ignoring us. We've tried to contact Carthan diplomatic channels. They're not responding. This is happening, Marcus. How many people are we talking about? Total across all 3 colonies, about 200,000. Plus infrastructure worth trillions. Plus 3 years of work. Marcus walked to the window, looking down at New Havana. He could see lights on the night side, cities growing where there had been wilderness. People had left Earth, traveled years through space, built lives here, and now someone wanted to take it all away. What does Earth say? He asked. Elena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder. Earth says no. No? We're not leaving. We're not giving up 3 colonies without a fight. Marcus turned to look at the hologram. Elena, the Carthan have the largest military force in the galaxy. Their Crimson Fleet has destroyed entire civilizations. What do we have? A few dozen ships? We have more than that now, Elena said. A lot more. But that's classified. For now, just trust me. Start preparing your people for potential conflict. Build shelters, store supplies, but do not evacuate. Make that very clear. We are not leaving. Marcus stood alone in the observation deck, wondering if he had just been given a death sentence for his colony. Back on Earth, in a secure bunker beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Elena sat at a conference table with representatives from every major Earth government. On the screens around the room, images cycled through what humanity had built in 3 years of desperate secrecy. The Carthan are assembling a fleet, General Dmitry Volkov said. He was Russian, head of Earth's combined military command. Our scouts count 847 warships. It's the largest punitive force they've assembled in 2 centuries. They want to make an example of us, said President Chen Aiko of the Asian Coalition. Show the galaxy what happens to species who don't know their place. Let them come, said Prime Minister Adeyemi of the African Union. We've been preparing for this. Elena pulled up another screen, showing a ship unlike anything the Galactic Council had seen. It was sleek and dark, bristling with weapons, its hull inscribed with a single name, UESS Ragnarok. This is our response, Elena said. The Ragnarok and 16 sister ships. They're ready for combat trials. Will they be enough? Asked President Morrison of North America. They'll have to be, Elena replied. We can't build more in time. What we have is what we fight with. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, now head of Earth's Technology Division, stood up. Let me explain what we've built. The Galactic Council thinks we're still using the same primitive fusion drives they saw on the Indomitable. They're wrong. We've reverse-engineered their gravitic manipulation technology and combined it with our own innovations. She pulled up technical schematics. Our railguns use gravitational acceleration to achieve 0.3 light speed. Our missiles have adaptive AI that can learn and counter enemy defenses in real time. Our shields are layered, gravitic deflection backed by electromagnetic barriers backed by physical armor. And our point defense systems use quantum computing to track and intercept thousands of targets simultaneously. What about their world-breaker cannons? Someone asked. Intelligence says their flagship has one. It can crack planets. Sarah smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. We have something better. Project Kasaba Howitzer. A shaped nuclear charge focused by magnetic fields into a directional lance. Think of it as a nuclear blowtorch. We've tested it on asteroids. The asteroids stopped existing. The room was quiet for a moment, digesting this information. And they don't know any of this? President Chen asked. They don't suspect a thing, Elena confirmed. The Indomitable was designed to look weak. We showed them exactly what we wanted them to see. A primitive species barely capable of fusion drives. Meanwhile, we've been stealing every bit of technology we could access, learning everything they would teach us, and innovating in ways they stopped doing thousands of years ago. Why did they stop innovating? General Volkov asked. Complacency, Sarah answered. They've been the dominant power for so long, they forgot how to evolve. Their technology is advanced, yes, but it's stagnant. They haven't had a real war in millennia. Everything is ritualized, regulated by treaty. They've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. But we haven't, Elena said quietly. Earth taught us that lesson over and over. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We learned to fight wars with everything we had. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons, cyber warfare, psychological operations. We learned to be efficient, brutal, and creative. She stood up, looking around the table at the leaders of humanity. The Carthan are coming to teach us a lesson. They think we'll run. They think we'll beg. They think we're weak. What do we do? President Morrison asked. Elena's eyes were cold and hard. We let them think that, right up until the moment we show them the truth. We let Kethron bring his entire fleet. We let him think he's won, and then we teach him that the most dangerous species in the galaxy is the one everyone underestimates. What if we lose? Someone asked quietly. Then we lose fighting, Elena replied, and Earth will know that we didn't go quietly into the dark. But we won't lose, because we have something they don't. What's that? Desperation, innovation, and a 3-billion-year history of survival against a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by being weak. We did it by being the most adaptable, most creative, most stubborn species our world ever produced. She pulled up an image of the Carthan fleet, massive and imposing. They have numbers. They have experience. They have technology that was ancient when our ancestors were learning to make fire. Then she pulled up the Ragnarok again. But we have something better. We have surprise. And by the time they realize their mistake, it will be too late. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not evacuate. The colonies would stand. And when the Carthan came, they would find not the weak prey they expected, but predators who had been waiting for this moment. In orbit around Mars, the Ragnarok completed its final systems check. Its crew was the best humanity had to offer. Veterans, geniuses, volunteers who knew they might not survive what was coming. But they boarded anyway, because someone had to show the galaxy that humanity would not bow. The trap was set. The bait was laid. And deep in space, the Carthan Crimson Fleet began its journey toward the human colonies, eager to deliver their lesson. They had no idea they were about to become students. Commander Lisa Park sat in the intelligence briefing room deep beneath Sol, looking at 3 years of work displayed across multiple screens. Around her sat the leaders of Earth's various intelligence agencies, all of them exhausted but satisfied. They had pulled off something remarkable. "Let's go through it from the beginning," Lisa said. "I want to make sure we didn't miss anything." Agent Kowalski pulled up the first screen. It started the day we left the Council Station. Captain Vasquez ordered continuous passive scanning of every technology we encountered. The indomitable sensors were primitive, but they were thorough. We recorded everything. The screen showed detailed scans of the Council Station's power systems, propulsion technology, weapons platforms, and shield generators. Thousands of terabytes of data, all collected while the Galactic Council laughed at humanity's backwardness. "They never suspected," Agent Chen added. "We were so far beneath them technologically that they didn't consider us a threat. They let us dock at their station. They let us walk through their corridors. They let us attend council sessions. And the whole time, we were learning." Lisa nodded. "Then we got lucky." "Lucky is an understatement," Kowalski said, pulling up another file. 6 months after our return, we made contact with a Vexnari merchant who was willing to trade. He sold us a broken gravitic drive unit, thinking it was worthless. Said we could use it for scrap metal. "Our engineers had it working in 3 months," Lisa said. "Not just working, improved. What took the Vexnari thousands of years to develop, we reverse-engineered and enhanced in 90 days. Why? Because we thought differently," said Dr. Yamamoto, head of the reverse engineering team. He was Japanese, one of the most brilliant physicists Earth had ever produced. The Vexnari discovered gravitic manipulation through accident. They developed it slowly, carefully, following safe procedures. They were afraid of making mistakes. But we weren't afraid, Lisa said. We ran thousands of simulations. We broke things deliberately to see how they worked. We combined their technology with our own knowledge in ways they never considered. We were desperate, and desperation breeds innovation. Agent Chen pulled up another series of files. Then we started infiltrating their communication networks. It wasn't hard. Their cybersecurity is terrible because they haven't had a serious hacking attempt in centuries. We installed backdoors in dozens of systems. We've been reading their classified communications for 2 years. That's how we learned about the Carthan expansion plans, Kowalski added. We knew they were coming 6 months before they sent the ultimatum. Lisa stood and walked to the main display. She pulled up a timeline showing humanity's frantic development over the past 3 years. Month 1, reverse engineer gravitic technology. Month 2, apply it to our fusion drives. Month 3, first successful test of hybrid propulsion. Month 6, begin construction of new ships. Month 12, first successful shield test. Month 18, railgun prototype exceeds projections. Month 24, AI combat systems pass all trials. Month 36, fleet ready for deployment. It's insane, Dr. Yamamoto said quietly. The Galactic Council took thousands of years to develop what we built in 3. If they knew, they'd be terrified. But they don't know, Lisa said, because we've been very careful. Every test was done in deep space, far from any possible observers. Every new colony ship we launched looked just as primitive as the Indomitable. Every communication we sent was carefully worded to make us seem helpless and overwhelmed. We played the part of scared children perfectly. Agent Kowalski pulled up intelligence reports from Carthan Space. Their assessment of humanity hasn't changed. They still think we're using fusion drives. They still think our weapons are chemical rockets and primitive lasers. They're expecting this to be a short, easy campaign. A few shots across the bow, maybe destroy one ship as a demonstration, and we'll run away crying. How wrong they are, Lisa said softly. Dr. Yamamoto brought up technical specifications for the Ragnarok-class dreadnoughts. Let me explain what we've actually built. The Ragnarok combines human engineering with reverse-engineered alien technology in ways the Galactic Council never imagined. The display showed a cutaway view of the ship. Propulsion, hybrid gravitic fusion drives that can accelerate to 0.5 light speed. The Carthan's best ships max out at 0.3. We're faster. Weapons. Railguns accelerated by gravitic manipulation. We can fire tungsten slugs at 0.3 light speed with pinpoint accuracy. The kinetic energy alone is devastating. We also have missile pods with adaptive AI, meaning our missiles learn from each engagement and share information in real time. If one missile sees a defensive tactic, all missiles immediately adapt. Shields, triple layered. Gravitic deflection throws off their targeting. Electromagnetic barriers absorb energy weapons. Physical armor stops kinetic impacts. The Carthan use single-layer gravitic shields. We tested against them in simulation. Our weapons go through their shields like paper. Point defense. Quantum computing arrays tracking thousands of objects simultaneously. We can intercept 98% of incoming fire. The Carthan point defense operates at maybe 70% efficiency. Lisa interrupted. And the Cassava howitzer. Yamamoto smiled. That's our masterpiece, a shaped nuclear charge focused by magnetic fields into a directional beam. We took human nuclear weapons technology and combined it with alien magnetic manipulation. The result is a weapon that releases the energy of a nuclear explosion in a single direction. It's like a blowtorch powered by the sun. How powerful? Agent Chen asked. We tested it on a 50-kilometer asteroid. The asteroid no longer exists. Not broken up. Not shattered. It vaporized. Turned to plasma. Against a ship, even one as large as a Carthan flagship, the effect would be total destruction. The room was quiet for a moment, everyone contemplating the weapon they had created. They have no idea, Kowalski finally said. They're coming here thinking they'll face primitive humans with crude weapons. Instead, they're walking into a slaughter. Why? Agent Chen asked. Why didn't they see this coming? They have intelligence networks. How did we hide all this from them? Lisa answered. Because they were looking down, not ahead. They saw us as primitives, and that's what they expected to keep seeing. Confirmation bias. They interpreted every piece of data through the lens of their preconceptions. When they detected our test flights, they assumed we were just learning to use what we already had. They never considered we might be building something new. Also, Dr. Yamamoto added, we had an advantage they didn't expect. We're hackers. Earth has spent the last 100 years dealing with cyber warfare, propaganda, and information security. We know how to hide things. We know how to feed false information. We know how to make people see what we want them to see. Lisa pulled up the final screen, showing the current disposition of Earth's forces. 17 Ragnarok-class dreadnoughts. 42 destroyer-class ships. 93 frigates. Hundreds of automated defense platforms. Thousands of missiles. And every single piece of technology is decades ahead of what the Galactic Council thinks we have. Plus, she added with a cold smile, we have Earth's entire defense network on standby. If the Carthans somehow get past the fleet, they'll find that Earth herself is armed. We've turned our homeworld into a fortress. Orbital platforms, ground-based railguns, AI-controlled fighter drones. If they want Earth, they'll have to pry it from our cold, dead hands. Will it be enough? Someone asked. Lisa looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching Carthan fleet. 847 ships. The largest military force assembled in 200 years. A fleet that had crushed civilizations. It will be enough, she said firmly. Because we have 3 advantages they don't. First, surprise. They think they know what we can do. They're wrong. Second, desperation. They've pushed us to the brink. We're fighting for our survival. Third, innovation. We have technology they can't even imagine. They're fighting to expand their empire. We're fighting for our survival. History shows that desperate defenders fight harder than confident attackers. And third? Agent Chen asked. Third, Lisa said quietly, we learned from Earth's history. We studied every war humanity ever fought, every tactic, every strategy, every innovation born from necessity. The Carthen have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They have doctrine, they have tradition, they have rules. She pulled up images of human military history, ancient battles, world wars, everything that had shaped humanity into what it was. We have no doctrine, we have no tradition, we have no rules. We fight to win using whatever works. The Carthen are coming here expecting a civilized engagement following galactic conventions. They're going to get a knife fight in a dark room against opponents who spent their entire evolutionary history learning to kill efficiently. Agent Kowalski laughed. It was a harsh sound. They mocked us. They called us primitives. They said our ship was a stone axe at a plasma rifle convention. They were right, Lisa said. The Indomitable was primitive. It was supposed to be. It was bait, and they took it. Now they're coming here thinking they'll face more of the same. Instead, they're about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to innovate, and to fight dirty when survival is at stake. She looked around the room at the tired faces of Earth's intelligence community. Everything we've done for 3 years has led to this moment. The deception, the espionage, the desperate innovation. All of it was preparing for what's coming. Are we ready? Yamamoto asked. Lisa pulled up one final image. The USS Ragnarok, waiting in the shadow of a gas giant near New Havana, hidden from sensors, crewed and ready. We're ready, she said. Let them come. War Marshal Kethron stood on the bridge of the flagship Crimson Dawn, watching the human colony of New Havana grow larger on the view screen. Behind his ship stretched the full might of the Carthan Crimson Fleet, 847 warships, the largest force assembled in 2 centuries. Status report, he ordered. All ships in formation, his tactical officer responded. We are detecting minimal defensive presence. 17 human vessels in orbit around the planet. They appear to be the same class as the Indomitable. Kethron smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 17 ships. They couldn't even muster a proper defense fleet. This will be over in minutes. His communications officer spoke up. War Marshal, the humans are hailing us. Put them through. Let's hear them beg. The view screen changed, showing Governor Marcus Webb. The human looked tired, but defiant. Kethron felt a flash of irritation. Where was the desperation? War Marshal Kethron, Webb said evenly. You have entered human space without authorization. Turn your fleet around, and leave, or there will be consequences. Kethron laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. Consequences? Look at your pathetic fleet, human. 17 ships against 800. You should be begging for mercy, not making threats. We don't beg, Webb replied. Last chance, leave now. The transmission cut off. Kethron stared at the blank screen, anger replacing his amusement. How dare these primitives speak to him this way? Fine. He would teach them respect through pain. Prepare the graviton crushers, he ordered. Target the lead human vessel. We'll demonstrate what real power looks like. Deep in the shadow of the gas giant, Admiral Elena Vasquez sat in the command chair of the UESS Ragnarok. Around her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. "All ships report ready," Commander Chen said from the tactical station. "Carthen fleet is powering weapons," reported Lieutenant Tanaka from sensors. "They're targeting the Vanguard." Elena watched her displays. The Vanguard was one of the decoy ships, built to look exactly like the Indomitable. It was crewed by volunteers who knew they were bait. Brave people, all of them. "Shields to maximum," Elena ordered. "All ships prepare to emerge on my mark." The Carthen graviton crushers fired, invisible waves of gravitational force designed to crumple ships like aluminum cans. The technology had broken civilizations. The Vanguard's shields flared bright blue as the graviton waves hit. The ship shuddered, but held. The crushing force that should have destroyed it barely scratched the paint. On the crimson dawn, Kethron stared at his displays in confusion. How is that possible? His voice showed disbelief. The readings don't make sense. Those shields shouldn't exist on a human ship. Fire again. Full power. But Elena was done waiting. "All ships, emerge now. Execute Alpha Strike." The space around the Carthen fleet suddenly filled with 17 human warships, appearing from behind the gas giant at incredible speed. They weren't the slow, bulky vessels the Carthen expected. These ships moved like predators, graceful and deadly. Elena opened a channel to the Carthen flagship. "War Marshal Kethron, you came here to teach us a lesson. Allow us to return the favor." She cut the connection and nodded to Chen. "Begin." What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, their AI-linked combat systems operating as a single mind. Railguns fired. Tungsten slugs accelerated to .3 light speed by gravitic manipulation. The projectiles hit Carthen shields and punched straight through. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles exploded as kinetic energy tore them apart. The Carthen fleet began to respond, but they were slow, following doctrine that was thousands of years old. Their weapons fired at where the human ships had been, not where they were. Their targeting systems couldn't keep up with the unpredictable movement patterns the humans used. "They're adapting," Kethron roared. "How are they moving like that?" "Unknown," his tactical officer replied, panic creeping into his voice. "Their technology exceeds all our estimates. They're faster than us. Their weapons penetrate our shields. This is impossible." Missiles launched from the human ships, hundreds of them, each one guided by adaptive AI. The Carthen point defenses fired, destroying the first wave. But the second wave had learned from the first. They jinked and dodged in patterns the defensive systems couldn't predict. Explosions rippled through the Carthen fleet. "Formation Delta," Kethron ordered. "Concentrate fire on the lead ship." The Carthen fleet tried to reorganize, bringing hundreds of weapons to bear on the Ragnarok. Energy beams and missiles converged on Elena's position. "Shields holding at 87%, Lieutenant Tanaka reported calmly. "Point defense intercepting 96% of incoming fire." Elena smiled. 96%, better than simulations. "Return fire, all weapons." The Ragnarok unleashed its full arsenal. Railguns fired in rapid succession, each shot precisely calculated. The Carthen ship's shields flickered and died under the onslaught. Missiles found their targets, detonating inside damaged ships. In 90 seconds, the Ragnarok personally destroyed 23 enemy vessels. Kethron watched his fleet dying and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: fear. "This isn't possible. They're primitives. We saw their technology." "We saw what they wanted us to see," his science officer said quietly. "This is an ambush. They've been planning this." "Then we use the World Breaker," Kethron decided. "Charge the Planet Cracker. If we can't have this world, neither can they." On the Ragnarok, Lieutenant Tanaka's voice became urgent. "Admiral, The Crimson Dawn is powering up a massive energy signature. It matches the profile of a Worldbreaker cannon. Elena had been waiting for this. The Worldbreaker was the Carthan's ultimate weapon, capable of cracking planets. It took 37 seconds to charge. Intelligence had told her everything about it. Chen, is the Kasaba howitzer ready? Charged and locked on target. Decloak us directly above their flagship. The Ragnarok had been using stealth technology, appearing slightly to the side of where it actually was. Now Elena dropped that illusion. The massive dreadnought appeared directly above the Crimson Dawn, so close that the Carthan sensors barely had time to register it. Kethron looked up at his display and saw death hanging over him. Shields to max. Elena spoke one word. Fire. The Kasaba howitzer released its fury. A shaped nuclear explosion focused by magnetic fields into a lance of nuclear fire. The beam was so bright, it burned afterimages into every sensor watching. It hit the Crimson Dawn's shields and went through them like they weren't there. It hit the armor and vaporized it. It hit the ship itself and turned it into plasma. The Carthan flagship didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply ceased to exist, turned to superheated gas in a fraction of a second. 8,000 Carthan warriors died without even knowing what killed them. The shockwave from the flagship's destruction rippled through the Carthan fleet, disrupting their formations, and the human ships pressed their advantage. Elena watched her tactical displays. The battle had lasted 14 minutes so far. The Carthan had lost 213 ships. Humanity had lost none. They're breaking, Chen reported. Some ships are trying to retreat. Don't let them, Elena ordered coldly. If even one ship escapes to warn the others, they'll come back prepared. End this now. The human fleet split into hunting packs. AI systems calculated escape trajectories and cut them off. Railguns fired with mechanical precision. The faster human ships ran down the slower Carthan vessels and destroyed them. Elena ignored those transmissions. This wasn't about mercy. This was about sending a message. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity was not prey. The battle lasted 14 minutes and 37 seconds total. When it was over, 847 Carthan warships had been reduced to debris. The greatest military force assembled in 2 centuries had been annihilated. The human fleet had suffered some damage. The Vanguard had lost shields and would need repairs. The destroyer Achilles had taken a direct hit and lost its port weapons array. 3 frigates had sustained minor damage. 0 human ships destroyed. 0 human casualties. Elena sat in her command chair, watching the debris field that had once been an armada. Around her, the bridge crew was silent, processing what they had just done. Communications, Elena said quietly. Begin broadcasting the battle footage. Full spectrum, every frequency. I want every species in the galaxy to see this. Admiral, Commander Chen said, the Galactic Council will demand an explanation. Let them demand, Elena replied. We'll give them an explanation. We'll tell them we defended our homes. We'll tell them we gave the Carthan every chance to leave peacefully. We'll tell them the truth. She stood up, looking at the view screen showing New Havana, still intact, still safe. And the truth is simple. Humanity is done being mocked. We're done being pushed around. We're done letting others decide our fate. Today we proved that we belong in this galaxy. Not because the Council granted us permission, but because we earned it. Lieutenant Tanaka spoke up. Admiral, we're receiving messages from multiple sources. The Vexnari want to talk. The Qualoran are requesting negotiations. Even the minor species are reaching out. Of course they are, Elena said. Fear is a wonderful motivator. Tell them we'll respond in due time. For now, send one message to the Galactic Council. What message? Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Tell them humanity is ready to discuss our upgraded status. and tell them to have a seat ready at the table. Not an observation seat, a full member seat, because we've just demonstrated that we're not children playing with toys anymore. The message was sent, and across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings watched the footage of the Battle of Proxima Threshold and understood that everything had changed. The species they had mocked had just destroyed the most powerful military force in the galaxy in 14 minutes. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened less than 12 hours after the Battle of Proxima Threshold. The same crystal chamber where humanity had been humiliated 3 years ago now buzzed with panicked voices from dozens of species. The Vexnari Council leader called for order, but the chaos continued. Representatives shouted over each other, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and anger. They destroyed the entire Crimson Fleet. 800 ships in 14 minutes. How did we not know they had this capability? We need to destroy them before they destroy us. We should have crushed them when they were weak. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the chamber, exactly where she had stood 3 years ago. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood representatives from every human colony, plus a full military honor guard. And outside the station, visible through the transparent walls, floated the UESS Ragnarok and 5 of her sister ships. A reminder of what humanity could do. I'd tell the story. The Vexenari leader finally managed to quiet the chamber. Its crystalline body seemed to dim slightly, a sign of stress. Admiral Vasquez, the Council demands an explanation for your unprovoked attack on the Carthan Empire. Elena's voice was calm, but carried steel underneath. Unprovoked? War Marshal Kethron gave us 1 week to abandon 3 established colonies or face military action. He brought 800 ships to enforce that ultimatum. We defended our homes. That's not unprovoked. That's survival. You could have negotiated, a Quiloran representative said. You could have sought council mediation. We tried, Elena replied. We filed protests with the council. We received no response. We attempted to contact Carthan diplomatic channels. We were given a choice, surrender or fight. We chose to fight. And in fighting, you revealed technology far beyond what you showed us, the Vexnari leader said. You deceived the council. Elena smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. We showed you exactly what we wanted you to see. The Indomitable was real. It was exactly as primitive as you thought. But you made a mistake. You assumed we would stay that way. You assumed we couldn't learn, couldn't adapt, couldn't innovate. That was your error, not our deception. You have upset the galactic balance. The speaker was from one of the minor species, one that had survived by avoiding conflict. The Carthan maintained order. Now that order is shattered. The Carthan maintained oppression, Elena countered. How many species have they crushed over the centuries? How many civilizations have they destroyed while the council looked the other way? You call it order. We call it tyranny. A new voice spoke up. It came from one of the surviving Carthan representatives, a diplomat who had not been with the Crimson Fleet. His scales seemed dull with grief. You annihilated our greatest military force. You killed thousands of our warriors. And now you dare to lecture us about morality? Elena turned to face him directly. We gave War Marshal Kethron multiple opportunities to withdraw peacefully. He chose war. He brought the Crimson Fleet. He powered up a world-breaker cannon aimed at a colony of 200,000 civilians. Don't pretend you were the victims here. What do you want? The Vexnari leader asked. Why are you here? To gloat? To threaten us? Neither, Elena said. We're here to propose a new treaty. A real treaty, between equals. The chamber erupted again. You've been spacefaring for barely a decade. And in that decade, Elena said loudly, we've gone from primitive fusion drives to technology that surpasses most of yours. We've established colonies on multiple worlds. We've defended those colonies against the largest military force assembled in 2 centuries. We've earned our place here. She pulled up a holographic display showing her proposed treaty. Here's what we want. First, full council membership with voting rights. No more observation status. We've proven we can defend ourselves and contribute to galactic security. Second, recognition of our existing territorial claims. Our colonies remain ours. Any species that wants to expand into human space will negotiate with us first, not issue ultimatums. Third, mutual defense agreements with any species willing to sign them. We're not interested in conquest, but we will defend our friends. And fourth, she paused, letting the weight of her words sink in, an end to aggressive expansion by any species. The days of larger civilizations crushing smaller ones are over. The Council will either enforce this, or humanity will. The chamber was silent. Then a Quileron representative spoke, its voice thoughtful. You realize you're threatening the entire galactic order? No, Elena replied. We're offering to fix a broken system. The current order allows strong species to prey on weak ones. It allows injustice in the name of stability. That's not order. That's cowardice. A small, insect-like being spoke up. Elena didn't recognize the species. You say you'll protect smaller civilizations? Why should we believe you? You just destroyed an entire fleet. Because we know what it's like to be underestimated and dismissed, Elena said softly. 3 years ago, we stood in this chamber and were mocked. We were called primitives. We were told to know our place. We remember what that felt like. We won't do that to others. The Vexenari leader was quiet for a long moment. You ask for much. What do you offer in return? Technology sharing, Elena said. We're willing to share some of our innovations with council members who sign the treaty. Not our weapons, but propulsion, shields, medical technology. We've made breakthroughs that could benefit everyone. Also, she continued, we offer our fleet for mutual defense. If another threat emerges, humanity will stand with the Council. We're not asking to be left alone. We're asking to be included. Another long silence. Then the Quileron representative spoke again. We need to discuss this privately. Admiral Vasquez, please withdraw while the Council deliberates. Elena nodded and left the chamber with her delegation. They waited in an antechamber for 3 hours. Commander Chen paced nervously. The other humans tried to stay calm, but tension filled the air. What if they refuse? Governor Webb asked quietly. Then we leave, Elena said, and we make it very clear that any species that threatens us will face the same fate as the Carthan. We don't need their approval. We just need them to understand we're not going away. Finally, they were called back. The council chamber felt different now. The panic had faded, replaced by something else. Resignation? Acceptance? The Vexenari leader spoke. The council has deliberated. We have reviewed your proposal and the evidence of your capabilities. We have also consulted with our military advisors about the tactical situation. Elena waited, keeping her face neutral. The council grants humanity full membership status, effective immediately. Your territorial claims are recognized. We will establish a new framework for expansion that requires negotiation rather than military force. And we accept your offer of mutual defense and technology sharing. Elena felt relief wash over her, but she kept it hidden. The council has made a wise decision. Do not mistake this for surrender, the Vexenari said sharply. We grant this because we recognize reality. You have proven your capability. But understand this, Admiral Vasquez, the galaxy will be watching humanity carefully. You claim to want peace and justice. We will hold you to that claim. Fair enough, Elena replied. We'll hold you to the same standard. The formal vote was taken. Humanity's membership was unanimous. Though Elena suspected fear motivated some votes more than goodwill. She didn't care. They were in. That was what mattered. As the session ended, and delegates began to leave, the Carthan diplomat approached Elena. Up close, she could see the grief in his eyes. "You destroyed my people's pride," he said quietly. "The Crimson Fleet was our glory, our power, and you annihilated it in minutes." "War Marshal Kethron destroyed it," Elena replied, not unkindly. "He brought it to a fight he couldn't win because he underestimated his opponent. That's on him, not us. What happens to the Carthan Empire now?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "That's up to you. You can rebuild based on honor and strength, or you can rebuild based on conquest and oppression. One path leads to respect. The other leads to what happened at Proxima Threshold." The Carthan diplomat nodded slowly and walked away. 6 months later, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Mars shipyards, watching the construction of humanity's newest vessels. The success at Proxima Threshold had proven the designs worked, but Earth wasn't resting. Better ships. Admiral Vasquez joined her, now retired from active command, but still consulted on military matters. Together they watched the work crews swarming over the skeletal frames of new dreadnoughts. "Do you think they'll accept us?" Sarah asked. "Really accept us, I mean. Not just fear us." Elena was quiet for a moment, thinking. Some will. Some never will. But acceptance isn't what matters. Respect is what matters. We showed them we can defend ourselves. We showed them we keep our word. We showed them that underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake. "The Quiloran ambassador said something interesting," Sarah mentioned. "She said their telepaths touched human minds during negotiations. She said we're different from other species. That we carry violence in our DNA in ways they don't understand." "We come from Earth," Elena said simply. "A world that spent billions of years trying to kill everything on it. We learned to fight, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. That's in us, in every human. Is that a strength or a weakness?" Elena watched a welding torch flare bright against the darkness of space. "It's both. It means we're capable of terrible things, but it also means we're capable of surviving terrible things. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Sarah. Humanity is equipped to handle that in ways these ancient, comfortable species aren't." "What comes next?" Elena pulled up a star map on her tablet, showing human space and beyond. "We explore, we grow, we build, and we stay ready, because the galaxy is vast and we've only seen a tiny fraction of it. There could be threats out there that make the Carthan look tame. But we'll be ready," Sarah said. "We'll be ready," Elena confirmed, "because that's what humans do. We prepare, we adapt, we overcome. The Council thought we were weak because we were young. They forgot that youth means potential. They forgot that new species bring new ideas. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one everyone underestimates." She turned off the tablet and looked at Sarah. "You know what the best part is? We didn't do this through conquest. We didn't destroy civilizations or enslave species. We did it by being too stubborn to quit and too smart to fight fair. We earned our place at the table through strength, yes, but also through refusing to accept the galaxy's low expectations of us." On the council station in the archives, a new entry was being made. The Battle of Proxima Threshold would be studied for generations as the moment everything changed. The moment a young, supposedly primitive species demonstrated that technology wasn't everything. Innovation mattered, adaptability mattered, and sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The Galactic Council had mocked Earth's first ship, calling it a relic and a joke. They had laughed at humanity's primitive technology and backward ways. They had assumed humans would always be inferior, always be weak, always know their place. They would never make that mistake again. And in the depths of space, in shipyards around Earth and Mars and the colonies, humanity continued to build. Not for conquest, but for survival. Not to dominate the galaxy, but to ensure that no one would ever again have the power to push them around. The species that had climbed from Earth's brutal crucible had found their place among the stars, and the galaxy was learning a lesson humans had known for millennia. Never underestimate the ones who refuse to quit. Never dismiss the ones who turn every setback into motivation. Never mock the species that survived by being the most adaptable, most creative, most stubbornly determined creatures their world ever produced. They had mocked Earth's first ship. They would never mock humanity again.